Hey everyone, it's Stephanie. Welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to talk about how a lot of people view others with eating disorders, how to talk to people with eating disorders, and just the things to say and not to say. I am not a medical care professional at all. I'm not a therapist. I don't specialize medically in any of these things. All of these examples are just my opinion. They're just the way that I wish people would have talked to me, the way that I wish people wouldn't have talked to me, and just the things to keep mindful of really saying to, or to be mindful of when saying to really anybody. So the first one that I want to start off with is not everybody that has an eating disorder has to fit the look. So I've talked about my past whenever I kind of fell into the patterns of anorexia. So I did not medically fit the guidelines of anorexia just because of my body weight, my body fat percentage, although it was dropping fairly quickly, quickly enough for me to lose my period, mess up my hormones. I had lost 25 pounds within, I want to say it was about 3.5 to 4 months, which for a lot of people, for people who are extremely overweight, this could be considered normal with, losing all of the excess water weight and all kinds of stuff, but for my size, according to my doctor, I was not unhealthy. Like I was at a decent, normal, healthy weight for, our community. My BMI went from normal high to borderline like normal low. And this was in just a small time frame, and that's what really scared my doctor, even though I was not able to fit into the anorexia category. And I'm thankful that I'm so thankful that I was not able to, or that I did not allow myself to get to be in that category, because I know that that would have really affected me more than it already had. Anyways, whenever I was at that weight, when I was looking in the mirror, or when I was, pinching my stomach or whatever, like I would always do, I felt good. I felt good about myself. I felt accomplished and successful, thinking that I had finally gotten rid of that weight that I wanted to, that I had finally gotten rid of that fat around my stomach, and my thighs weren't always rubbing together all the time. That was success for me. When I would really get down on myself was, I remember one day I was at work, or I was working at a therapist's office, and I was walking into my office. There were two separate buildings. I was walking into the building that I worked in, and one of the women that worked there, I actually had coached her granddaughter in gymnastics before this, and she goes, "Oh, look, there's that skinny girl. She must have lost a lot of weight." And her granddaughter just laughed. And this little girl was 9 years old at the time. And her grandmother was telling this. And not only did it really affect me, but it hurt me a lot, but it also made me really mad, because to me, she was putting in this little girl's head that mindset of, this is big, this is fat, and this is too skinny. And to that little girl, that could have a huge impact on her, because I know when I was little, that's what I would always hear was, "Oh, I'm too fat." And I would look at these women that would say that they were too fat, and I would think, later on in life, that was in my head what I pictured as fat, even though these women were normal size, they were healthy size. So yeah, that really irritated me, and it really made me wonder, how do people think that that's okay? Because she said it right in front of me as I was walking by her. She knew I heard her. And it just was mind-blowing to me that people think that this is okay to say these things. It's just something that I would think people would be more mindful of, especially with children. You're putting this into your child's head or your grandchild, or the children pick up so many things from people, not even just their parents, and people just don't seem to really care, who they hear, what they're saying. They just don't think about that stuff. And second, I wanted to talk about family and friends. So when I was binging really bad, even into the restriction phase, I avoided family gatherings at all costs because I already knew what would happen, and I already knew the comments that would be made. I already knew all of that, and I don't want to make my family look bad because to them they were just joking. This wasn't anything serious to them, and to me, maybe I was being a little oversensitive at times, but there were times where, I would get a whole plate load of food. I knew I was binging, and I'm pretty sure they knew something was wrong. And sometimes, like, I would hear, oh, that's a lot of food for you. Are you gonna go back for seconds? Or they would say, oh, that's all gonna go to your thighs, or that's gonna go to your butt, or stuff like that. And if I would get too little food, then I would hear, oh, that's why you're so skinny. You need to eat more. You need to fatten up. You need this, you need that. And with my family, especially my dad's side of the family, the older, the elders in our family, they always have like pies and cakes and all kinds of stuff at every celebration. And everything that they would eat was, the cheap pastries and stuff like that, because that's what they, growing up and stuff, that's all they could afford. So that's just what they're used to. And they would just, how Hispanic families are, they just push food on you, and it is very disrespectful to not eat it. But at the same time, I felt like I had to speak up and I had to say something, and I ended up talking to my family. They were extremely understanding, especially my grandparents. And I would tell them, I'm definitely gonna come hungry, but when I say that I don't want any more, please just don't push it on me. And I know that that is you loving me and you caring for me, but this is what I'm going through mentally, and it really, really affects me later on and sometimes in that moment, and it's not worth it for me. And they were very understanding about that. But I do know of some people who don't have families that are understanding. Once I talked to my family about everything, told them that was going on, they were very, they were really quick, honestly, to change the things that they said. And I didn't want them feeling like they had to walk on eggshells around me. And that was the hardest part, was how do you tell the people that you love to stop saying things that, are normal to them because of how it makes you feel? But at the same time, I thought of it as, if I heard, one thing about how the burger that I was eating, even though I wasn't even eating it on a bun, was going to go to my thighs, it was like something would it was like a trigger. And that was all I could think about. In the whole rest of the day, I would just stare at all the food and think, I want to eat that so bad, but I don't want to get fat. I don't want to gain more weight. And I know that that's a terrible mindset to have, but when you have any type of eating disorder or anything like that, you know what it's like. It's like it doesn't stop. And at that point, I would much rather ask my family if they could chill out a little bit with the comments than not even enjoy being around them and just being stuck in my head the whole time. And even after that, I remember, going home and just crying the whole night, or even going to the kitchen once everybody was out of there and binging, and then just having to go home and work out the whole rest of the night because I felt so guilty, and that just was not worth it to me. The third thing that I wanted to talk about was how to kind of deal with people, talk to people, and all that with eating disorders. So, like I said before, I do not specialize in this. I'm not a doctor. I'm not, a nutritionist or anything, but this is how I wish people would have talked to me and what people would have done with me. So, don't push food on somebody. If you know, especially that they have a bad relationship with food, don't push food on them. If they want to try something and they, just want to bite or something, tell them, okay, maybe hype them up a little bit and make them feel good about it. Remind them, like, you're doing this because, this is getting you to interact with your family more, or, this is bringing you closer to the people that you love because you're enjoying something that you love, or, one bite is not going to hurt you. Because that was one of the things that would get to me so bad was, that, oh, you take this bite, that's going to go to your thighs. That would drive me insane. And that had stuck with me for years. And there were times where I would tell myself, like, I know this isn't true, especially after I started to really look into nutrition. I knew what was true and what wasn't, but it was just so stuck in my head. So just being mindful of what you're saying, how you're saying it. Affirmations help so much, telling them it's only one bite, you'll be okay. And, or, even if you want to take a few bites, the majority of the time you eat good, having this isn't going to affect you that bad. If you were eating it all the time, that would be different. Or, just kind of educating yourself a little bit and really getting to understand that person, trying to understand what they're going through. And sometimes it does take time. You don't have to be their therapist. You don't have to be their nutritionist. Just kind of get an understanding. I know that Hans, when I first really started to open up to him about this, he was doing research on it. He was talking to me about everything, everything was out there. Everything has always been out there so he can understand me, and he knows how to help me. He knows how to, if I even look at food a certain way, he knows what to say. And granted, like, and he had, like, we spend all of our time together, it's a lot different than just a friendship where, you have to be there every once in a while. So he really has put time and effort into understanding what I'm going through. But I think just educating yourself, and really understanding the person that you are trying to be there for and trying to help. It means a lot more than it does. Just understanding and not being that, oh, well, this is how I am. If you don't like it, then oh well type of person. You wouldn't talk to your grandmother the way that you talk to your best friend. That's the same way as, you wouldn't talk to somebody that deals with a mental disorder or anything like that the same way that you would talk to your buddy that you go on, these late night trips to Taco Bell with. It's two completely different things. There's different ways to talk to everybody, and it's just really understanding that person and understanding what they're going through, and even just communicating with them about what's comfortable for them, what's uncomfortable, boundaries, stuff like that. Lastly, I wanted to talk about kind of what I talked about in the beginning, how an eating disorder doesn't have a look. You can't just look at somebody and say, oh, they have an eating disorder, they have an eating disorder. They don't. There are people that I have met that are extremely, extremely thin that can put it down with food. They have no guilt over food or no negative emotions towards food, but they are just extremely skinny. And to me, that doesn't mean that they have an eating disorder. But there are people that look completely normal. Like myself, I looked completely normal. I was a little bit on, like I had a little fat. I wasn't too skinny, but that was at the time where I was binging on 7 to 10,000 calories every other night, or 3 or 4 times a week. And it did seem to all catch up at once, but that was whenever I was having vivid dreams about food. I wasn't sleeping because the dreams and the thoughts would just consume me over food and exercise, what I was going to eat, when I was going to eat. I was eating too much, and then I just binged, and now I need to work out. And it was literally my whole life. And I looked fine. I was at a decent weight. My skin was clear and everything. And I don't know, I felt like so many people, when I started to open up about this, kind of just blew me off because I didn't fit the look. I did not fit the eating disorder look, and many people don't. So many people don't. So just be aware of what you say, what you're saying to people, understanding people, and really just being mindful of what you say. You wouldn't look at your mother and tell her, wow, you're looking a little fat today, especially to a stranger. You don't know what they're going through mentally. You don't know what they're going through at all. So just be mindful of what you're saying to people, understand people, and just try to get a good understanding and some knowledge built up around these things. And it doesn't hurt to understand these things a little bit more. It doesn't take a whole lot of research and time and energy. It just takes, reading a quick article on eating disorders, or every once in a while researching something, looking into it, even especially if you have a friend or a loved one that is going through this. These are just my tips on how to talk to somebody with an eating disorder, and just how to, kind of help friends or loved ones that are going through these things. So if you guys have any questions, just contact me. I have my email listed down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Have a great day.